All right. Let me see. Try out my audio here. Can everybody hear me? Just put it in the chat if you can hear me. Welcome back. And for anybody that's here for the first time, welcome. We're going to be making the hot and the mild Tomatillo Salsas, also known as the red and the green salsa from Chipotle. I got the tomatoes in the fridge cooling down now. I went ahead and prepped those ahead of time. And got my pan heating up right here because we're going to toast some chilies here in a second. All right. The audio is going well. Thank you, Sue. Hey, how's it going, George? Welcome back. Okay. So I've been looking forward to this one. I know there's been some people asking about the different salsa recipes and being able to do them and whatnot. And this is our final salsa recipe. So first thing we're going to start off with is toasting our peppers. I know that in my instructional video, I kind of talked about that, but toasting really helps get a good flavor on them. You can actually buy these chiles pre-toasted. I just found that out today. For the sake of this live stream, we're going to toast them in the pan. So we need about 4 chile de arbol peppers for our red hot salsa, as well as 4 New Mexico chilies. Something you might see online is you'll see a lot of videos that talk about just putting the chile de arbol in here. And on Chipotle's website with their ingredients list, it only lists red chili. And red chili can mean a ton of different things. And so when I was, back 5 years ago going through this recipe, I found that the best ratio to get the color and the flavor was to do New Mexico chilies to get that red deep flavor, color, along with the chile de arbols to get the spice. Hey, I'm glad you're tuning in, George. How was your last week or 2 weeks? I'm not sure if you were on beforehand last week or 2 weeks ago. All right, let me add these to the pot right here. You may not be able to see this, but all we're doing right now is we're going to toast each side. This one I might have to cut in half because it's sitting up, and I want to get a good toast on both sides of it. So I'm going to toast each side. You can remove the seeds beforehand if you want. I'm not going to remove any of the seeds because I like my salsa hot, but the recipe does have us removing one of the pepper's seeds from it. So we're going to get those going right there. So do it on like a medium to low. I'm not really sure what this is because it's a portable electronic burner. So I think it's on like a medium low right now. So we'll watch that on the side. If I start coughing, you know that it's working and toasting it. Okay, so while that's going, we're going to prep the rest of our ingredients that we have. Something that we have to add to our green tomatillo salsa is we're going to have to add cilantro and some diced red onion and diced jalapeno. So we're going to go ahead and dice those right now while this is toasting. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on the camera so you guys can kind of see an up close of how to cut this in case you don't know. So just give me 1 second. All right. Let's see here. I really got to invest in getting some better live stream hookup software to get 2 cameras on here, but it is expensive. So apologies for always having to switch. Okay, so we have a close-up right now. We're going to dice up our cilantro. If you're just now joining, we're making the green and red, hot and mild, also known as salsas from Chipotle. So we need only a couple of tablespoons for this recipe of the cilantro, but I'm just going to dice it all up because I have it out and I can use this throughout the week on other stuff that I like to make at home. Okay. Something people will always ask me is stems or not inside your cilantro. And honestly, I've seen a lot of the, expert chefs per se to keep the stems. At Chipotle, we would always take the stems out, but I believe it brings a lot of flavor and you're missing out by getting rid of the stems. So I would advocate for the stems for flavor, but if you want to be as authentic as possible, you're going to have to pluck off the leaf from the stem and not include that. Okay, our peppers are looking good, just to let everyone know. I'm going to flip them inside the pot, and I'll just zoom out for a second so you can see. So I'm going to flip these out, essentially turn them over. It's been about 2 minutes, I would say. I'm not really sure exactly how much time it's been, but you really don't need to do a whole lot with these. Just be careful not to breathe it in because, again, this stuff is like really intense. You just want to get a little bit of a char on them, nothing too crazy, because we're actually going to be using this pot to boil these for 5 minutes here in a second. Okay, so that's going right now. Let's zoom back in, finish our dicing. Oh, I got cilantro all over my camera. Isn't that fabulous? Okay. All right, so we have our cilantro diced up for our green salsa because the red hot salsa does not have any cilantro in the recipe. Now we have our red onion that we're going to be dicing up. I like to do quarter slits through the onion, 1/4 inch. And I had this pre-peeled before I started. And I like to leave the root on the onion so it keeps it together when you're dicing it like we are right now. But if you're chopping it for fajitas or for burgers or anything else, you can take the root off. Okay, so another thing too, I like to kind of come through the middle. And we talked about that last week. It gives you a better even cut. Don't worry about the cross-contamination of the cilantro to the red onion because we are going to be mixing it in a salsa anyways. Okay, so I took that little bit off because I don't like it. I think it's an ugly cut. And we're going to come down another 1/4 inch through our red onion. This we only need, I think it was a couple of tablespoons as well. So we really don't need a lot, but I'm going to save the rest of this red onion for the rest of my week. I know I was bad about that in my video. Okay, so throw away the rest of your root. Now we can't forget about our chilies. Those are going right now, and I don't want to over toast them to where they're burning. So I'm going to zoom back out. Okay, so these are practically done. They're nice and toasted. I'm going to take them out on my cutting board here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add water to our pot to boil. Oh yeah, did you hear that? That is a hot pot. That's a good thing. So add, 4 or 5 cups of water. It doesn't really matter. Just the more you add, the longer it'll take to boil. Enough so we can cover the peppers entirely that we have right here. So we're going to boil the peppers, continue to cut up our ingredients to get this ready for the salsa. Theoretically, the cilantro we're actually going to mix in at the end along with the red onion. We're not going to food process it because I don't want it all mixed in thoroughly. I want it to be kind of whole like it is now. But we are going to do that with the garlic. We're going to add it to the food processor with our salsa. So you don't have to worry about pre-dicing this. We're going to dice this in a second because I'm going to add it with this stuff as well. Okay, so that's going. Let's turn this burner up, get this water boiling so that we can get these toasted. I'm going to put these on the side here with as little of room as we have. Let me grab a little bowl underneath here. All right. So I'm going to add my red onions to the bowl. Throw these off to the side. For those that are just now joining, I mentioned in the beginning, we have the green tomatillos and the 2 tomatoes pre-cooked and sitting in the fridge resting right now. I like to put it in the fridge before I put all these ingredients together because hot salsa to me doesn't taste very good. And if you're trying to really compare this to Chipotle, obviously it's refrigerated. So, you got to have it refrigerated for a little bit before you eat it. So in order for our video, I want to taste test it as accurately as possible. All right, so we're going to dice up our jalapeno now that I made some room here. I'll zoom into the cutting board. Let me know in the chat if anybody has any questions on this recipe as we're cooking it. I really want to hear from you and any questions that you might have. So we're on an extreme close-up right now on our jalapeno. I like to take the stem off, and then I like to kind of cut through the middle like that. Just be careful. I'm going to take the other part out and save it. I personally don't want a ton of spice in my medium salsa, so I'm going to take out the white flesh and some of the seeds, just like that. That will tune down a lot of the heat that you have with your salsa. So I'm going to take that out. We're going to make matchsticks, as I call them. These are about, I think like 1/8 of an inch wide, real small. So we're going to cut down like that, lengthwise. Now we're going to go across. We're going to go 1/4 inch to make our dices. We only need, and I need to check the recipe, but we only need around a teaspoon or so of these diced jalapenos. So not a lot. So I'll put that off to the side. Okay, so we have those going. Let me zoom out because our water is boiling. All right. Give this up here. Okay. Our water's boiling now. So now that we have our ingredients pre-prepped and all ready to go, we're going to add our peppers that we toasted a second ago for those who are just joining us. We have 4 New Mexico chilies. That one of them I cut in half. In the video, I took the seeds out of one and left in the seeds in the rest in order to keep the spice up with the red hot salsa. Again, this is for the red hot salsa. So let's put all those in there. The chili de arbol, if you really don't like spice, which I don't know why you'd make the hot salsa if you don't like spice, but if you like the redness to it and you don't want it to be so hot, you don't have to put in these chili de arbol. This really gives it most of its spice. It's kind of funny because you think the bigger the pepper, the spicier, right? No, it's usually the smaller. Okay, so we're going to boil that for a couple of minutes. Let me get a spoon, a slotted spoon, for them so we can strain them when they're done. I'm going to add them in here. Okay, so while that's boiling and softening up so that we can kind of food process those together for our red salsa, do you have any questions on anything? I have some salsas from the other day yesterday. I went to Chipotle and picked these up on the side with my bowl. I had a little bit of it earlier because I was taste testing, and they're really good. So we're going to be taste testing our finished salsas, compare them to Chipotle's, which is kind of subjective because it's me, but I think it's fun. So we have those for today. This is boiling, and these are getting softened up so they can blend nicely for our salsa. Okay, now I have my food processor over here, which I will bring over here and get rid of the burner when we're done cooking these so that we can blend everything in. Clean this up. So you might be wondering, how often do they make these salsas? And so they make these salsas fresh daily. They don't keep them left over and serve them the next day. So really, they are fresh for when they make them. You don't necessarily need to make them fresh every day. It's not going to get you sick. That's just from a quality perspective where they have a standard where they want to keep them as fresh as possible. I've found that a good 3 days with these salsas is really 3 to 4 days, the max that I can get out of them. If you wanted to store this, longer term, like a canned salsa, I think you might be able to, but I'm wondering if you'd have to put in some type of vinegar or something to, store it longer within the can. I'm not actually sure. I've never seen how long I can have these salsas go, but kind of a fun fact there. Okay, our peppers are looking great. I don't know if you all can see this right here or not off to the side, but they are softening up just how we want them. If you're just now joining, we are making the red and green salsas from Chipotle, also known as the hot and the mild salsa. I earlier had the green tomatillos boiled for the red salsa, which we're doing right now. And I broiled 2 Roma tomatoes and tomatillos for our green salsa. So a little bit of a difference in the cook. I found that when you broil the tomatoes and you char the outside a little bit, it kind of gives it a little bit of a bitter flavor. And the red salsa, when I've tasted it from Chipotle, doesn't really have a bitter flavor to me. And I found that just going straight to the tomatillos with boiling them makes it so that you're not adding any of that bitter flavor to it. So that's a good side note for anybody that isn't sure about whether or not, you should boil both or broil them, which kind of sounds like the same thing, but it's different. So you could potentially boil the green ones. You could also pan fry them. It would just take longer. Something to look for, which I don't know if you can see it, but once they start splitting open, they're done, and I like to pull them. These, I like to make sure that there's a nice char on them. This one's really charred right here, and splitting open in the oven before I pull them. Why I put them in the refrigerator, for anybody that's just joining, is because I want to make sure that the salsa is as cold as possible when I'm taste testing it, because hot salsa isn't, in my opinion, very good. It sure is not as, compared to Chipotle, because theirs are refrigerated. Okay, so it's been a few minutes, I think. I'm going to risk pulling these. In my video, I think I simmered these for 20 minutes, but then somebody in the comments recently told me you don't need to do that. You just need to boil them for a solid 5 minutes to soften them up. So we're going to trust this stranger and see how it actually turns out. So I'm going to stop the boiling here. And I'm going to strain these out. We don't need any of the water from here. We are going to add half a cup of water. If you have seeds that come out, and again, if you want to make this, hot, I would keep the seeds and add them to the food processor. All right, so we're going to add all of that. Bear with me. I'm going to move this in front of the camera a little bit more. Move out our hot burner. Let me get this over here. Just a little bit more. Okay. Hope that's not too far out. Let's see. I can kind of see it. That'll have to do. What I'll do is move the camera so you guys can see this better. Okay. So we're on the hot salsa right now. And what you want to do is once we've, boiled these peppers, we have them in here, we're going to add half a cup of water. You could maybe add the half a cup of water that we use to boil the peppers with. That's going to be really hot in terms of spice if you do that, not heat. So we got half a cup of water in there. My recipe, I like to blend this to try to get it as homogeneous as possible and really grind down these peppers before we add the green tomatoes. So less is more within your blender as you're doing this. Okay, so I'm going to pulse mine. Okay, that's looking good so far. So let's take a look. You can kind of tell that the peppers are not fully there yet. I don't know if you guys can see this. I've just spilt it everywhere. It's fantastic. But this is what you want to see. They are obviously the 5-minute technique, I think, worked pretty well with boiling them for only 5 minutes. That's a lot better than waiting 20 minutes if you have the same, result. So I'm going to wipe that up. And then I'm going to add, I'm going to blend this for a little bit longer. Let's do it on high now. All right, that's looking fantastic. Hey, Cindy, how's it going? What kind of food processor works best? That's a great question. So I have a Black & Decker food processor right here from Sears, and it was $30. So I don't have anything fancy. I believe in just doing the bare basic minimum dollar-wise for these recipes. So mine is, not fancy at all. It's real basic. You can use a blender if you'd like. But I think a food processor is a little bit better in terms of salsas, because you'll see in a second, we don't want to over blend the green salsa, which we're going to make. So I hope that answers your question. All right, let's take the lid off here. And if you're just now joining, we are making our red tomatillo hot salsa from Chipotle. So there's a little bit of liquid in this bowl. I'm going to make sure to add this in, because if these were hot and I added them in, they'd still have the liquid. So we have 13.5 ounces. It's very specific, of green tomatillos that we boiled earlier. Again, I like to boil these because if you char them in a broiler in the oven, it'll give off a little bit of a bitter taste, which I don't think exists. Okay, so we're going to pulse this a little bit before we add any of our other ingredients that we have off to the side. So I'm going to pulse this a couple of times. Apologies if it's loud. Okay, so that's obviously not, I don't know if you can tell. I need to turn this guy up because pulsing isn't necessarily what we're going to get to our end result here. All right. That was like maybe 15, 20 seconds. Okay, so right now, let me zoom out for everybody because this is kind of exciting. You know, before we even get to the flavor part, I want to make sure that we're talking about the ingredients. So I don't know. I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to get a spoon. I have a little container of salsa from Chipotle from the store. And I don't know if you guys can see this on the spoon. I'll be able to zoom in here in a second. I wanted to compare the texture and the color of this to what we just cooked in, or excuse me, made in our food processor. So just to let you know, because I have yet to find anything online that gets as, you know, this close. This right here is about as close as you can get in terms of color and texture. Now let me zoom in. Give me a second. See if I can zoom in here for everybody. Camille Mears, how's it going? Thank you for joining. All right, here we go. That's pretty zoomed in now. Okay, so this is the restaurant right here. It's very chunky. And this is mine, which I'm going to get a spoon. So this is the restaurant's, and then this is mine. So I'd say they're pretty spot on in terms of color. Oh, whoops. In terms of color and how they taste. We're going to get a little bit messy tonight in the kitchen. That's okay. All right. So we are there with the color and the texture. So let's get the taste dead on. So that's the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add the ingredients that we had into this and then pulse it a couple of times. So we need 1 teaspoon of kosher salt. Chipotle uses kosher salt. If you have sea salt, that's pretty identical to kosher salt. I mean, it's different, but in terms of ratio, it's the same. If you have like iodized salt or, you know, Morton salt, I guess that's a brand, but iodized salt where it's real fine, you want to use less because that's really salty. If you have that, honestly, I'd throw it out unless you're using it for baking. That's my critical opinion of it. And then we're going to add 1 garlic clove to this. In my recipe online, I used garlic powder, but we're going to use a garlic clove this time. And then 1 teaspoon of black pepper and 1 teaspoon of cumin. And all of these ingredients that we have right here are exactly what you're going to be able to find online off of their website. Underneath this, they'll list the ingredients. So we're going to add that. Now, at the end, we're going to add a couple of dashes of Tabasco because that's a secret thing they'll do in the store. I mean, it's not very secret, but it is something they'll do in the store. So I'm going to pulse this. Forgot I had a garlic clove in here, so need to make sure that this gets mixed up well. Okay. All right. So we are almost done. Now that we have that in there, all we have to do is add a couple of dashes of Tabasco sauce. So I just picked this up today. And again, if you're just now joining, we're making the red hot tomatillo salsa from Chipotle. So just a couple of those, not a ton. Let's go ahead and mix this around. All right. Okay. So another thing too is if it's still hot and you boiled your tomatillos, don't be afraid to stick them in the fridge and give them a chance to kind of come up to a cooler temperature because it won't taste dead on. So I'm going to taste this. Okay, so it's definitely spicy. I can taste a little bit of the Tabasco, probably because I dabbed it in and didn't mix it around thoroughly, but there's definitely Tabasco in this. The heat comes through, but it's not too overpowering because if you just used all Chile de Arbols in this, it's just way too hot. So I use the New Mexico chilies to give it the color, and then the Chile de Arbol to give it the spice. But yeah, that is pretty dead on. And then for our restaurant one, let's take a, yeah. To be honest, I'm having a hard time tasting a difference on either of them. I can taste the Tabasco, the chilies in it. Tomatillos are tomatillos, so that's not any different. The blend of spices are dead on from what they have listed on their ingredients. So I think we have a winner on that. So that's the red salsa. It's a little bit of a mess. So I'm going to pour this in a bowl. If you have any questions on this while I am pouring this out, I'm going to clean the food processor to do our green salsa. Go ahead and throw any questions you have in the chat while I scramble to quickly clean this out, which it will be extra spicy for my green salsa. Okay. Definitely going to be doing some coughing with this recipe. All right, have my lid right here. Okay, so earlier, again, with the green salsa, I broiled the tomatillos and the tomatoes in the refrigerator, in the oven, excuse me. It's been a long day. And then I put them in the refrigerator so they would cool down. That's important because I think that this salsa has more of a robust charred flavor to it. You could boil the tomatillos, but I don't think you're going to get the same result. Okay, so let's go ahead and zoom in here. We're going to add our stuff and make our green salsa. All right, so for it, I have 1.1, very specific, 1 pound and 1 ounce of green tomatillos. And then I have 2 Roma tomatoes that I charred in the oven. So we're going to start off with those in the food processor. And this one's going to be a little bit different. The last one, I blended on high until it was fully combined. But this one, I want to do a little bit more of a pulse because I don't want to over blend it. I have the store Tomatillo salsa. Okay, so let's start off with that. So just pulsing it slowly. And I don't know if you guys can see the store salsa, you have a little bit of hints of red in it, as well as, you know, the green, which is obvious from the tomatillos. Okay, that is coming along very well. All right, that's probably good. And yes, that is good. Okay. For this, we're going to add 2 garlic cloves, which I probably should have done that a second ago. We're going to mix in at the end a tablespoon of jalapenos, okay? 1 teaspoon of oregano. Oregano is listed on their website. So we're going to add a teaspoon of Mexican oregano to this. Okay. So let's pulse that up again. Okay. It's looking really good. All right. Now, this is going to be a funny explanation. So you see here how the store salsa, I don't know if y'all can see this, but it doesn't look like there's cilantro in this. It doesn't look like there's even red onion. Sometimes during the morning prep shift, they can run low on cilantro and red onions, and they'll end up not using it on all of their salsas. So that might be a reason why. But I know for 100% that it has red onion and it has jalapeno and cilantro because the website's ingredients list it. And because we would add it at the end, right like we are now. For Susan, how long did you broil them for? That's a fantastic question. About 5 to 6 minutes each side at 500 degrees in the broiler. Question from George. Are the tomatillos fresh? Yes. The tomatillos I picked up today from a store and added them to the broiler and boiling them that I did earlier. So they are fresh. They look pickled. That's a great observation. So what I did earlier is I actually boiled them and then I broiled the ones you're seeing right now. So they were actually prepared ahead of time in terms of a couple of hours ago, just to save us time here, because otherwise we'd have to wait and then we'd have to toast the peppers. So I did that ahead of time. Okay, so we're going to add a tablespoon. Let me grab a tablespoon right now of the diced jalapenos. Okay. And then we're going to add 3 tablespoons of red onion and cilantro. So I have my diced red onion right here. Add 3 tablespoons to it. And then 3 tablespoons of the cilantro that we minced earlier. And if you're not a big cilantro fan, this is your chance to not have it in your salsa. Okay. So I'm going to just mix that around with the slotted spoon that we had from earlier. Actually going to put this in a bowl because we don't want to blend the other ingredients. We simply just want to fold them in to our already prepared salsa. So let me fold that in to our already prepared salsa. Okay. So let me go ahead and get the camera back to the middle of the table here so I can show you guys something with the two salsas together. 1 second. All right. Okay. All right, so now that we have that all mixed in, we have to add half a teaspoon of cumin. So not a lot on this one, so just half a teaspoon here. Hey, no problem, Susan. So just half a teaspoon of cumin. Again, this is listed on their website as an ingredient within the salsa. And then 1 to 2 teaspoons of kosher salt. And that is up to taste. So we'll start with 1 and then we'll adjust it. For citrus juice, I have a teaspoon of each lemon and lime. So Chipotle has a citrus juice that's 2 parts lemon, or excuse me, 2 parts lime, 1 part lemon. That's already pre-bottled. So I'm going to add just 1 and 1 because I don't want to put too much in here. Actually, let's do 1.5. So because it is 2 parts. So we'll give it 1.5 teaspoons of the lime juice. And yes, I don't use fresh ones only because Chipotle does not use fresh ones. All right, so I'm going to stir that around with this slotted spoon. Okay. Now I want to be able to show you all just a little bit of a comparison with the color. Something else that, I noticed, when I was working in the store is you'll add these to the salsa in the, morning time. And then by the end of the day, the cilantro will turn a different color within it. And so will the red onions, just because it's so acidic. But it looks like the sample that I have from the store, it doesn't look like, and it looks like they had, I swear this is not for me. It looks like there's a piece of corn in it. So that's, not fantastic, Chipotle. But you can see the tomatillo, the red. You can see the onions in here. I can't really see any cilantro or jalapeno, but I know it's in there because I used to make it as a former employee. So this is what it's going to look like fresh right here. The color of the actual tomatillos, you can see a little bit of the Roma tomatoes in here, is perfectly, spot on. I think they may have skimped out in their prep this morning when they made it. Gym workouts, how's it going? Good to see you this week. Do you have recipes / measurements that you use written down anywhere? Yes, I do. I literally wrote them down right here beforehand. So I can put that in the description in this video for you after. Okay, so now we're going to do our taste test because this is my favorite part. Let's zoom out. Sorry. I may have already started the taste test. Okay, that tastes delicious. So I just tried mine. Well, let's try the stores. Yeah, it's a medium salsa. You have hints of the jalapeno because it's a little spicy. You can taste the tomatillo, that's obvious. You can taste the citrus juice, a little bit of salt, and cumin has a really profound taste that just goes well in any, dish or Mexican food dish that you can taste as well. So having this bite right after, I mean, it's hard to really tell these apart. Again, the key thing here, guys, is when you are, cooking your tomatoes in the oven and you're braising them, make sure you cool it down before you taste test the recipe and compare it. Because when the salsa is made hot, it does not taste like what it does when it's cold. So doing it this way, where we cooked them earlier, then put them in the fridge for about 2 hours to cool down before we blended them, worked really well. And it's hard for me to taste any difference right now. This tastes a lot more fresh because obviously I just made it, and this is from yesterday at the restaurant. And it has fresh ingredients in it. This did. So I think it's dead on. Any questions on this? Gym workouts, that would be dope. Thanks. Yeah, I can definitely get that for you. Is there honey vinaigrette made fresh too? Yes. The honey vinaigrette is made fresh every day. I used to make it. I have a recipe for it underneath my videos. It's only like a minute long. It's really easy. The big thing on the vinaigrette is you want to slowly add the oil to the blender after you have everything else in there so that it combines really well. A little secret that you can do that Chipotle doesn't do, at the end of the day, their vinaigrettes, the oil's kind of separated from, just like a dressing bottle where the oil is separated from it. If you want to avoid that, something you can do is you can add like 1/4 of a teaspoon of xanthan gum to your blender, and that will actually act as like a glue and keep everything together so that the oil doesn't separate as easily. So xanthan gum will make the shelf life of that Chipotle honey vinaigrette recipe I have last longer. It's not a Chipotle thing, but it's a thing that, professional chefs and kitchens use in their recipes. So I hope that helps. Any other questions on these? I mean, let me see if I can zoom in with the red salsa, which I spilt over here. It's hilarious. I just want to show you guys how close the color and the texture is on these. And we made this at home, so that's a win for us. All right, let me get my spoon and show you guys again. So this is the restaurant's right here. And then this is mine right here. I guess you'll just have to take my word for it that it's the same thing, or you could try it at home and make it for yourself. Gym workouts, good to know. I'll have to check that out, that vid. Yes. Ooh, look at that. That is fantastic. That looks exactly like it does. And it tastes like it. Sorry that I'm chewing in everybody's ear. But, I mean, look at that. That's dead on. George, yours looks better. Hey, thank you. I appreciate that. I think it's because we made it fresh just right now. So it has a brighter color and really good deep flavor. So for those that are still on, the salsa recipes are done. I'll put up the recipe for them in the description. Again, I have videos for them. But for tonight's, where we used a little bit more fresh ingredients, I'll put those in the description box. But I have a little bit of something that I'm working on. I'm almost done with the script for the honey chipotle chicken recipe. I know they had that for a limited time. I tried it out. I loved it. I didn't actually work there. I worked there a decade ago. So They don't really change much. But they did add that honey chicken recipe earlier this year. I actually have a recipe for it. I had a post on it. I am pretty dead set that it is as close as you can get to what the store is doing, and it tastes phenomenal, and it's easy to make, believe it or not. So just because everybody's here on the live, I thought I'd get a little bit of insight to that recipe. Something that I found on their website is they talk about the spices that are used in it, like smoked paprika and cumin, obviously, because it's in most of their stuff. And then they have a picture of a guajillo chili, which I made a sauce for with those spices and the honey that I have here in the refrigerator that I've been working on. So I have this, and I'm making it into two different versions for everybody. One version is, and this is kind of hard to tell because the honey, as it gets refrigerated, kind of comes together. But I know for a fact that it is a honey sauce because in the promo video, they're tossing it in a sauce. So it's pretty obvious that it's that. I made it to where you can cook the pepper just like we did tonight. We boiled it and then we blend it with water, and then you add the other spices and the honey to the blender to get that sauce. If you don't want to do that and you're like, hey, I don't have time to blend up the pepper, I also tried out a ratio of the recipe with the pepper bought dried and ground it up. So that sauce tasted practically exactly the same. It just looks different because it's dried. So you have less specks of the pepper unless you really finely, blend that cooked pepper in water. And so I have two different versions of it. It'll be coming out soon. But I mean, it's dead on. It's not really a complicated recipe. It's basically, like they said, it's their traditional chicken recipe added with their honey and then a blend of spices. And then they go down to talk about the spices, and then they have the picture of the pepper on their cutting board. So I know it's all of those through the taste testing and whatnot, but just wanted to give a little insight to everybody in case you wanted to go out and do it. Let's see here. Gym workouts. I might actually go back and get some if they ever bring it back. It's really good. So yeah, I'd agree. I'd be definitely going back if they have it. But hey, if they don't, I'm going to make a video for it so you don't have to ever go back and get it if you don't want to. George, I like to learn to make that honey chicken. It's so good. Yeah, it is. It's phenomenal. We had, the video, the first live stream, and then I have a video on the chicken recipe. It's basically that with the sauce tossed in at the end after it's diced up. It's really not complicated. I'm trying to make it as easy as possible in case you don't want to have to blend peppers and boil them. I know that can be a little bit of a chore. Gym workouts. So they do it like the chicken al pastor. Yes. So according to their video, and according to employees, it's the same thing. It comes in a sauce packet, and they're just mixing it together in a bowl after the chicken's cooked. So it's the same thing as the al pastor in terms of the technique. I could see how you could apply some type of like powdered honey to it after it's cooked, but if you look at the pictures, it looks real glossy, like it's real honey and not a powdered honey. So that's why I think it is the way that it is in that sense. So I'm pretty dang close with it, I would say. Yeah, and homemade is just better and cheaper. I agree. We're going to be able to pretty much do everything pretty soon, recipe wise, with the honey chicken. And I could do one for the guajillo steak in a couple of weeks, but just wanted to let everybody know I'll be out next week. So there will be no live stream next week, but I'll be working on the honey chicken video to hopefully get that out. I'm really trying to double down and make it really good. for everybody. But yeah, so that's just a little bit of insight for you guys that are on, if you wanted to make it ahead of time. The recipe that I have for it, and I'll share it with you all right now, for the stuff. So this is one for the ground guajillo powder, chili powder that you can buy in stores. It's 1 teaspoon of the ground guajillo chili powder, 1 teaspoon of cumin, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of smoked paprika, 1/4 of a cup of honey, and 1 tablespoon of water, all mixed together. And I did that without a blender. You just kind of, mix with a whisk. And then I put a tablespoon of that sauce per cooked chicken thigh. So I'll get like a cooked chicken thigh with the, Chipotle chicken recipe that I have that's pre-marinated. And then I'll dice that up into cubes. And then I'll mix that together with 1 tablespoon of sauce per thigh. This makes about 3 to 4. So it's good for it. It's generally good for the same ratio that I have for the recipe for the Chipotle chicken on my channel. So that's just a little bit of insight for you all that are on the live stream right now. We have that video coming up, but I wanted to give you guys, because I appreciate you all tuning in and chatting, the recipe ahead of time. That's just a little bit of a plus. And then I'm working on the chimichurri sauce. That one has me a little bit stumped with how they get the oil ratio and get it so oily. But I found a few chimichurri recipes online of just basic chimichurris, and I'm putting the Chipotle spin on it. Chipotle actually has a video on some of the ingredients they have in the recipe, and I'm trying to figure out the rest that matches their chimichurri sauce that I'm comparing it to. So I'm going to get that figured out for you all and share that one as well, but I don't have it figured out right now. So I know somebody asked that on the channel. But if anybody had any more questions, please throw them in the chat. And then I'll put the recipes for these that we made tonight in the description for this live stream. But appreciate everybody tuning in. Any more questions? All right. Well, I appreciate everybody. And if you have anything, you can always shoot me an email or comment on one of my videos. Thanks and have a great day.